Over the course of the past year, I've been playing a lot more solo gigs than I normally do. And because of that, and because of a crazy friend of mine who tunes his guitar down to C sharp, I've gotten into the habit of playing my more better ukulele in B6 tuning, which is a half step down from standard G, C, E, A, C6 that most people play in. I like it on this instrument because it creates a little bit more of a full sound. It allows the body to resonate in a more warm way, at least on this instrument. With this instrument, it's great. Others, the strings just get floppy, and for instance, my friend had his ukulele tuned down the other day, and it was fine for me because I'm already in that lower tuning, but for him, when he got up on stage and plugged in, his ukulele was feeding back like crazy and didn't sound as together as it usually does. So it's going to depend on the instrument for whether this works or not, but I thought I would throw together a quick video and tune this to B6, which I've had it in for most of the past year probably, and then tune it up to C6 if I can get the strings to stay in place, and just do a back-to-back demo so you can hear the difference between the two. And now I'll tune up to C6 and play the same exact thing. If you tune back and forth a lot between B6 and C6 tuning, you're going to have trouble with your strings staying in tune. Because once the strings settle into a certain tuning, they get used to that exact tension, and whether the ukulele stays perfectly in tune in that tuning or not is sort of beside the point, because once you change to the new tuning, there's a whole nother set of tensions going on across the strings, and because they have a bit of a memory for what they were tuned at beforehand, the strings are going to continue trying to either raise up or go flat. So if you tune from B6 to C6, when you're in C6, the strings are going to try and fall flat, at least for a while. And then if you tune from C6 back down to B6, the strings are going to try and go sharp for a while. So if you only have one instrument and you're tuning between these tunings, it can be a little bit of a pain. But what I've been doing, since I have the luxury of having several instruments, is I keep this one for the most part in B6, and when I play by myself or with a friend who also tunes down, or I want to work and play harder chord shapes, then I'll play this ukulele, and if I just want to play in standard C6, I have my Blackbird, which I use C6 on exclusively. So my reflection on these tunings back to back, just from sitting here in the chair and playing them back to back, is besides the pitch, you're gonna have to get beyond the sound of the pitch of the notes, because one is a half step higher than the other. But if you can get beyond that and listen to the actual tone of the instrument, you can feel when I tuned up, the sound sort of tightens. It gets a little bit more focused, and it almost sounds like it becomes a little bit more trapped, like something's holding the edges of the instrument a little bit tighter from what it was. And with the lower tuning, it allows it to ring out a little bit more. And I think that is mostly an instrument by instrument kind of a thing, and I don't necessarily think that's always going to be the case with every instrument. So for your instrument, it would be very interesting to try these different tunings, or even to try going up a half step, or even up to D6 if you have appropriate strings, because those different tensions on the top of the instrument, depending on how it's built, there's one of those tunings is going to have a more optimal vibration rate or a tension that kind of brings the instrument up to life. And I find for this one, the B6 tuning is really great. And at the end of the day, I really like it just because it gives me a bit more of a rich sound. So when I'm playing by myself, it's not quite as much, oh, I'm just playing an ukulele and singing, because sometimes that can make you feel really naked up on stage. But when you tune down a little bit, it's a little bit more warm, a little bit more to work with, and the sound is a little bit meatier. I use really heavy strings. I have for a long time, and because of the heavy strings, I don't have any trouble with buzzing or anything. But if you use really light strings, you might have to find a heavier set to tune down without any buzzes, or you can just play lighter accordingly. But for me, it seems like to have the heavier strings and to tune down, you're sort of getting the best of both worlds. Something to try out, give it a whirl, and let me know what you think.